All right, so we are recording again, and we are going to cover the practice exam that I gave you guys. Okay, if anyone needs to go, I totally understand. We're just going to go through this exam. It'll probably take a few minutes, but I want to get you guys as prepared as possible.
Okay, I gotta bounce out. I've got a call I've got to get on to, but
Hey, you're good, Spencer.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
thanks for
Take
coming.
care.
See you later. All right, so going back to week 1. All right, we talked about transistors and diodes and LEDs and all sorts of stuff. So does anybody remember what a transistor does?
It acts like an automated switch.
Okay, yeah, let's check that answer. Okay, we have our exam 1 key right here. Acts like an automated switch. Very good, Christy. Okay, so I only have a couple questions in here. These questions won't be found on the exam, but there will be similar questions on the exam as far as parts of a computer go. Okay, wow, I'm showing you all of the answers. Okay, what does the CPU in a computer do? Remember, the CPU is like where it thinks,
Performs the calculations.
performs calculations. Great. What does main memory in a computer do? We talked about that today.
Temporarily stores the data.
Very good. Yep. All right. Then we get into these ones that are a little bit trickier. So how do you write a comment in HTML? We'll write it out in a sec. But if you couldn't remember how to write out a comment, what are some things that you could do to try to get that answer while you're taking the exam?
You could try it out in your text editor.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah, let's pull out a text editor. I could even look through my code and see if I have a comment in my code. You know, if I looked at like my assignment from week 4, you know, I could see, okay, like here's a JavaScript comment, but dang, I don't have one in HTML. And then I could try to type one out and see, oh, that started a comment and that ended a comment, you know? So that's a great thought, Christy. I could write it out in my code. And if I'm using a text editor in an HTML file, it'll mess with the colors if I get the comment right or I get it wrong or something like that. Another good thought, you have your book, okay, for your exam. The book is free game. So just to be clear, on the exam, you can use your book, you can use programs that you have written, you can use W3 Schools, and you can use Google Chrome. Now, I don't want you to mistake that for using Google or Googling stuff or using the internet, the World Wide Web, okay? You can use the program Google Chrome. Google Chrome is a program. I can open this up, like in a random tab anywhere, open up the developer tools and start typing out JavaScript, okay? And I can use this. When I run a program, if I wanted to like run this and be like, okay, what did my assignment do last week? Like, how did I do that last week? Okay, I could run this assignment in Google Chrome, and that's totally legal. I just can't go to like any websites other than W3 Schools. Okay. All right, so back to the comment. I could type it out in the text editor, I could look in my book, and I could go to W3 Schools. So we know that W3 Schools is fair game. So look at all these errors W3 Schools has. So what I would do, I would take this W3 Schools page and bookmark it in a place that's easier for you to locate. And then on your test, you can just go here. And here, there's a little search, and I could type in like HTML comment. Okay, and as long as you stay in W3 Schools, it's free game. Okay, you can use W3 Schools. You guys might be like, wow, that's like defeats the purpose of a test. Well, the purpose of school is to prepare you for life. And you know, you have these tools available to you. You can run programs, and you should run programs when you're writing programs. And so, yes, it's important to learn these things. And I would venture to say that it's more important to learn how to learn. Like you said, Lena, like you're not going to memorize every one of those objects, every one of those pieces of data accessible in the math.object. In the math object, you're just not going to memorize them. You know, so you have to know how to find that. Okay. What meta tag do we normally use in our HTML? Again, you can look at previous code that you've written. Okay, so if you have a template file that you use for your assignments, you can be like, oh, look at these meta tags that I use in all my programs. Okay, write the tag and closing tag that surround an HTML document Okay, any thoughts on that? What tag do you think that would be, you guys?
That would probably be the HTML tag.
You got it, Garrett. Yep, if I look back at my code, you can see I have this HTML tag that opens and closes. Okay, so yeah, very good. What is the tag that ends the body of an HTML? What are your thoughts?
Again, HTML tag, only with the / at the beginning.
It's a good thought, but it explicitly says ends the body of an HTML document.
Okay,
I know,
the body.
I know. Yep, so it's this one right here. But yeah, with the / but that one was a little bit trickier.
On a question like this, they would want us to just type the closing tag with a slash in it, like like this, right?
Yep, just like that.
Okay.
And when you get your grades back, if there's anything that you're like, hey, I feel like I really should have gotten this right, just shoot me an email, okay, and be like, hey, Brother Birch, I don't get why I got this one wrong. I'm pretty sure it's right, and I'll check it out for you. Ends the body. Okay, write the HTML for a button to invoke the function find answer. Okay, so this one, it's not just wanting a closing tag, but it wants like an entire opening tag of a button to invoke this function. Okay, so what I would do, I would go into my text editor because I like the colors. If I had something like this, great. You know, you can look at your previous assignments. Let's see, what was that called? Find answer. Pretty sure this is all you need. Okay. We did talk about how we can use this attribute, this type attribute in HTML, and so you could use that and that would still be valid. Okay, but what it'll be looking for is that you have a button that will call a function when it's clicked. Okay, and in this case, the function that has to be find answer. Okay, any questions about this one? Okay, what is the ID attribute used for? Any thoughts?
It uniquely identifies text, a string of, it uniquely identifies an element.
Very good. Yep, that's exactly right. What does the JavaScript function parse float do? We saw this just a little bit ago. Anyone remember what parse float does?
Converts the string of text to the number.
Yep, makes it so that you have
decimals.
Yes. Yeah, very good, Christy. So parse float will convert it to a number with decimals. If I did parse int, that would convert it to a whole number. So let's test that out here real quick. If I had var x equals 5 point some decimal, okay. Well, I guess I should say like var x equals a string, right? With a decimal. Okay, so I have a string right here. If I say var y equals parse float of x, and I see what y is, you can see it carried over the entire decimal. Okay, but if I said var z equals parse int of x, and I see what z is, it's just a whole number. I just carried over the whole number. And it would round. Okay. So yeah, good distinction, Christy. What value does the variable thing have after these two lines of code? Okay, and this would expect an exact string. Okay, so we have var animal equals 5, and var thing equals this plus 5 with the space there. So for my answer, I would just say this. Okay, and if you wanted to put that in quotations, that'd be fine, but you don't have to have it in quotations. Okay, you can just leave it like that. But it has to be this exact string. All right, what value will result have? Okay, so here you can see a way to assign multiple values to new variables in one line of code. Okay, so we have var a equals 3, b equals 6, c equals -7, and then it wants to know what result will be. Okay, and so here the tricky part about this is just order of operations. Okay, we have to know that multiplication will happen before the the subtraction and addition. Okay, so B will multiply times 5, which would be 30. And then we'll just go from left to right. So A minus 30 would be negative 27, plus C would be negative 14, because it'll subtract that 7 from there. Okay, and again, with this, if you're like thinking about what it would be and it's like not clicking, you can run this. You can use the developer tools and you can run this. So if I hit F12 right here, I could say var animal equals 5, and then var thing equals, oh wait, I'm on the wrong one, sorry guys. Var A equals 3, B equals 6, C equals negative 7. Okay, so I have those 3 variables declared and assigned, and I could say var result equals A minus B times 5 plus C, and see what it gets. And I could type in result. It says negative 34. I would have gotten that wrong. So let's see why. So we have A minus B times 5. So B times 5 is 30. We'd have 27 minus 7, so it'd be negative 34. See? Yeah. Any questions about this one? Okay. Translate the following expression into JavaScript. So yeah, I mean, I won't go too much into this one. We've already gone through a few of these examples today, but practice these examples as you're going through them in the book. You know, when you see like an expression in the book, try to like write it out and see like how you do it. But yeah, and any questions about this? Do you guys want to go into this real quick, or are you guys okay? Okay. Number 17, rewrite the following statement. So it uses the shorthand assignment operator, this operator right here. So we have scale equals scale times growth. So if I had scale equals var scale equals 5 and var growth equals 2, just that they're declared, I could write scale like this, times equals growth. And that would be the exact same thing. Okay. Rewrite the following JavaScript statement without using the auto increment operator. So if you remember, all this auto increment operator does is it just increments the value by 1. Okay, so if var g was 5 and I said plus plus g, then g is now 6. Or if I said g plus plus, it'll just increment it one more time. Okay, it didn't look like it incremented it because I didn't assign this to anything. Okay, if I said y equals g plus plus, then it would assign it now and it has that new value. Okay, but oh, I forgot to say var y. But to write that without the increment operator, we could just say g equals g plus 1. And that would do the exact same thing. Okay. All right. Let me close that out real quick. All right, write a defining table for a program that calculates an employee's after-tax pay. Inputs include the employee's regular hours worked, overtime hours worked, and regular hourly wage. Overtime hours are paid at 1/2, or are paid at 1.5 times the regular hourly wage. The employee's income is taxed at 18%. Your output is the after-tax pay. Okay, so it looks like there are, so look carefully at this. So this is asking for a defining table. All right, so let's go ahead and do these. We have 2 programming questions here. Both ask for a defining table first, and then ask you to code it second. Okay, and then it gives you a little bit of code. All right, but I'm gonna start with a defining table. And minimize that. I'm actually gonna blow this up just a little bit. So I have my template function. I'll go ahead and use that. And then all it wants is just a defining table at this point. So let's look at this. It says inputs include, so I have my input at the ready, regular hours worked. And I'm gonna disable word wrap for now. Regular hours worked, overtime, and regular hourly wage. Okay, those are my 3 inputs. And then it starts saying what we're going to do with those values, and then we have our output is the after-tax pay. So I know that output is after-tax pay. And the processing, it says well, I know we're going to have to add a couple things. So it says overtime times, I'll say wage times 1.5. Okay, so wage will be multiplied. We'll have an extra 50% on there, so I'll just multiply it by 1.5, and I'll multiply that times overtime. And I'll say plus, and I'll have the regular wage times wage, or the regular hours worked times wage. And that's it for that. And then after we have the total money that we've made, I'll just say multiply by tax rate. And then we'll have our after-tax pay. Okay, so here's my defining table. Obviously, these will look different. I'll grade anything asking for a defining table. But that's what it's asking. That's what number 19 is asking, just for a defining table. And then in here it says, if you wish, you can use this code to start your program. Okay, I already have my template program in here, so I'll just leave it like this. But let's go ahead and write this out real quick. So I will need several inputs for the regular hours, overtime hours, and the wage. So I'll just make 2 more inputs. And this first one I'll just say hours. The second one I'll say overtime hours. And the third one I'll say wage. Okay, so we have our 3 inputs. At the end of each one of these, I'm going to put a break, or at least these 2, just to put them on a new line, so we stacked nicely. So I have regular hours, overtime hours, hourly wage, and then a div for the after-tax pay. All right, so here I'll just say after-tax pay. Okay, I don't need that, and I don't need that either. Okay, so I'm going to run this program just to make sure that it's working. Exam, practice exam code. Copy the file path, run it in the browser. Okay, so I have 3 little inputs. If I wanted here, I could say, please enter hours, overtime hours, and wage. Okay, if I refresh that, you can see I have these labels here. I could say I worked like 20 hours and 10 hours, and my wage is $15 an hour. Okay, this run function won't do anything because I haven't done anything with it. But now that we have this, I need to write my function to do this math and compute my after-tax pay. So I'll name this template function compute total, or I'll just say compute pay. And I'll put here as well, compute pay, or after-tax pay. And then up here, I need 3 get element by IDs to get the inputs from the user. Okay, so I'm going to copy these 3 IDs that I have. I'm going to delete that and paste those right there. And I'll say document.get element by ID dot value. Okay, and I'll say var, and I'll just leave those as their same names. Okay, so one thing we're going to need here that I forgot is we're going to have to parse these. And so I can parse these immediately as I'm pulling them in. So I'll just say parse float. I have to put everything in until the end of value. So I'll parse this entire value that's coming. And so I'll immediately change it. I'll immediately convert it from a string into a number. And I'll have these 3 variables ready to go. So my code, I could even say, you know, like I have my input here, and then I'll have my processing here, and then I'll have my output. Don't need that. Okay. So for the processing, what we're going to need, we have overtime times that, okay? But I named it overtime hours times wage times 1.5. Okay, and I'll just say var total equals 0. I'll declare it as a number. And then we're just going to add I can actually declare this. I just throw it right here. Start that off with the total. And then I'll add our regular wage to the total. I'll say total plus equals, and then I'll compute my regular the regular hours worked times wage. I could say hours times wage. And then the last one, total, and then times equals, we have to multiply it by the tax rate. So the tax rate was, if I look at it, was 18%. Okay, so if I multiply it by 0.82, then we'll get the remainder of money that we'd actually get after tax. Okay, and that's our total. And then I would output that in our output div, which we called after tax pay. Okay, so I have my input, my processing, and then my output. If I wanted to, I could add comments here saying, take off 18% of tax, add regular wage, hours, okay, and but then I would want to run this, okay, definitely before I submit it, I'd want to run it and make sure that it's working. Okay, so if I said I worked 20 regular hours, 10 overtime hours, and the wage was 18%, okay, you can see that'd be our total, and I could check that on paper. But I just saw I don't want to do times 0.82. We have our wage coming in here. Well, hang on one second. That's interesting because it says the employee's income is taxed at 18%, but as an input here for, oh, it doesn't have, oh, it has their wage. Okay, so yeah, so this is right. We don't have tax coming in here. It's just at 18%. So any questions about this? Okay, so I know I went through it kind of quickly, but it's nice to start off with the defining table similarly to the way you do it with your assignments. You will be given code to write in part B of your exam, and you can start off with like that template, and then you should just work through it like you would one of your assignments. Okay. All right, and the next one, write a defining table for a program that finds the length of the third side of a triangle using the law of cosines. Okay, this one I'm going to skip because you won't have to do anything this complex. Okay, if you want to look over this and practice it, it's in the key for the practice exam. Let's see, where is it? Down here. Okay, and so you can see the code that I used for that, but you won't have anything that complex. Okay, if I was going to practice anything, if you had extra time on top of, you know, because we all have so much free time. But at the end of chapter 5, there are other programming exercises that will be more similar to what you'll find on part B of the exam, where you'll actually be coding. Okay. But again, same thing. You can use W3 Schools. You can run your program. You can debug your programs. You can bring programs that you've used from previous assignments. Anything you practice on this week that you write, you can bring those as well to the exam. So yeah, practice lots and go into the exam with W3 Schools bookmarked and all your resources ready to go. So any other questions?
Is the exam timed?
It is not timed. You can take all day if you want. So
there seems to be 2 parts of the exam. What is the second part?
So the first part is very similar to your review questions, where, you know, it'll be like, how do you write an HTML comment? What does a diode do in a computer? You know, multiple choice, write in your answer. That's the first part of the exam. The second part of the exam looks kind of like this, where it's like, you know, write a defining table for this, or write a program for this. Here's a piece of code to get you started. Okay. So the first part of the exam looks like your review questions. The second part of the exam looks more like your programming assignments. So yeah, good question. Any other questions? Okay. Well, you guys, thanks for joining. Sorry I talked for forever this morning, but I hope that it was helpful. If you guys have any questions as you're studying for the exam or anything, just let me know, and I'll be happy to help you guys out. So, all right. Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great week, you guys, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Yeah. Bye bye.